I'm Jeanette Keynes from Jewelry Art Shank. In this video, I'm going to show you a really common soldering cleanup problem and how to solve it with the right tool. So here's the extreme close-up of our issue. You see on that left side of the seam there's a little lump of solder. And it can be surprisingly tricky to get rid of stuff like that right next to a ring shank. So Alexis came to me and said she tried weed whackers, she tried cylinder wheels, etc., and nothing really quite got in there because you can still see the lump. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Electra-Spin, and we're gonna use that to get in there and get rid of that little lump, because there's no way that we're just living with that. So Alexis, tell us, what wheels did you use to try to clean this up?
The white cylinder wheel first.
Yes.
You'd think that it would get in there, but it didn't. Then I tried the cone-shaped cylinder thing. Left kind of a trench in there. And then I went to weed whackers. Still didn't get it.
Yep. Sometimes getting in little spaces is really hard. But that's all right. That's why we have our Electra-Spins. There is the offending blob. And we are just not going to put up with that shit. Okay? So we're going to use the Electra-Spin. I'm also going to use Alexis's beautiful N7, her micro torque, because I love how they don't wiggle around. It's gorgeous. So we have a lovely little stack ring here, but Alexis had a little trouble with a little errant ball of solder. And she tried a few separate methods and nothing has worked yet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use Electra-Spins because they're small and they're flexible and they're really good for getting into naughty little places. So I'm gonna try either the black or the violet. You know, the black is the most coarse and then the violet. And we're just gonna take out this little blob. So I think I'm gonna go with the violet, because sometimes I like to, before I go for the most coarse, I want to try a little less than that and see what that does for me. You know what I mean? Because you can always go more coarse. But sometimes, once you've gone very coarse, you're a little sad. Okay, so you know, you just pop that baby on there just like that. All right. So you can see, with my little pointer, there's the offending naughty blob. So we're going to work on that. I love not having to use a foot pedal. Is that wrong? Because I always feel like with the foot pedal, it's a little bit like riding a horse. There's always this like, you know, kind of a thing happening. And like when I'm trying to just focus, especially on like some really, like if you're like carving wax or you're doing some really fine cleanup, I just do not, you know, I feel like it bucks, you know what I mean? And I feel like you never really control the speed as well as you want, whatever. I mean, a flex shaft is fine, but I have to admit, I love the micro torque. Okay. So, as always, I got my hands on the table. Now, these wheels are flexible, and that's the nice thing for stuff like this. So I'm going to take this like this. Oh, look at that. That's how you do it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why sometimes everything is about just having the right tool. You know, I mean, there's more exotic applications for the Electra-Spin, if you know what I mean. But being able to get in there and just shave off that little extra naughty blobule is a beautiful thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch down to a even finer grit just to like blend it in with the rest of it. But I mean, that took like 5 seconds. And honestly, that's one of the reasons that I'm such a twit about the right tool, because I mean, I'll spend all day on something, I don't care, but I hate to waste time. Go. I'll go to the green, which is just the next finer. Because all I'm gonna do now is just do both sides, blend together quick so that like, it never was. Solder blob was never a thing. Now also though, you don't really need to use the Electra-Spin for this part. You could also use a weed whacker, you know what I mean? Whatever floats your boat. But being able to get in there to that little spot is like everything. Okay, so do the other side as well, and then like I said, we'll probably take a weed whacker to really just blend the whole thing together. But knowing the right tool is really everything sometimes. So there's basically a bunch of things we can do now, like just to blend both sides with the other, because we've done one thing to one side and nothing, or not the same thing to the other side. So a lot of times I use something like a weed whacker. They're radial brushes, but to me that looks like a weed whacker, so that's what we call them, to just like blend both sides together. Okay. Because ideally when you're cleaning up, you don't want where you had to do your little operation to look any different than anywhere else, ideally. So that's why something like this that blends it together is good. You see what I mean? Okay, I'll let you go through it a little bit more, but basically you see what I'm saying, right? Like it pretty much is good to go. Okay? So I'll do a little close up and show you guys, but basically that's it. It looks clean, it looks beautiful. You know, knowing the right tool to get into those naughty little spots is very key. Okay, so I'll do a little close up now, but crisis averted. So there it is, looking all clean and tidy. You can't even tell there was ever anything there, which is of course our entire goal in life. And that is, of course, by the way, why I'm such an OCD nightmare about how I solder, because it can be really tricky to get in and clean little things and whatever. But you know, who hasn't had a little piece of solder naughtily go where we don't want it to go? This is life, but you see what I mean? I mean, this looks absolutely pristine and gorgeous now. Yay! Now that is some pristine cleanup. And always remember, of course, in normal life, you would not be seeing things at this kind of crazy magnification. So, so Alexis was just pointing out that yes, we are completely insane, and that is how we try to look at everything, like super mega magnified, but normal people would not. So just to clarify. That's all for today.